comments. We'll move on down to the roundtable discussion amongst council members. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Dave, Delora? Or our little scrap paper. Okay, go ahead, Delora.
So I have a couple things. First thing is about Food Truck Mondays. Last year, we had taken study session off the second Monday of each month during the summertime. I know we discussed this, and in talking to the mayor and mayor pro tem, we couldn't recall if we actually adopted that, or I looked back through some minutes. I didn't see.
You want to take this year off too?
That's, yeah. We had discussed that previously when we were talking about the schedule.
Do you want us to set up a tent? Like we did last year? Tent, yeah, the city tent and table, gathering place.
Did people really attend it? Do you know? I mean, I know when I was sitting there, people would come and chit chat with us that they knew, but
Yeah. No. The weeks, I tried to be there the weeks, on those weeks, and I don't think I had anybody from the public, but what's nice is we're making ourselves available. So if someone, and because we said we didn't want to do cookies with council because no one showed up in January, so we were kind of doing this as a replacement, and so I think having the tent there is nice, and if we can sort of rotate through and
Yeah.
cover it.
My only, just a caveat is remind council, 3 of you are okay, 4 of you were in trouble. So you can't be more than 3 in public. So just calmly keep apprised of that and, maybe coordinate amongst yourselves which 3 are gonna claim that area. So we don't violate the Open Meetings Act.
okay, sounds good. You want to put that on an agenda to?
Yeah,
vote?
we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Perfect. We're going to do that, what, May, June, July, and August, or just June, July, and August? When do the food trucks start? June?
Yep, those begin on June 12th.
Okay, so then just the second meeting, June, July, and August. Second meeting, sorry, yeah. Okay, do you have anything else, Delora? Because that was mine, so see, you just stole it right
Oh,
out.
sorry.
You're okay?
Could have had it. The other thing is, I know that at our last budget meeting last Thursday, we had discussed water rates, and we received a response from city staff last week in regards to, what the impact would be if we kept it at a 3% across the board, to like a 2.5 and a 0.5, versus the proposed 3 and 0.5. I will go on record and say that I am all right with that. Number one, I think it's less than what inflation is right now, so the increase kind of makes sense. We didn't increase last year for water. However, I'm still very concerned about the 0.5% sewer. So Doug, I know that, if you wanted to come up or.
Please come to the mic, Doug. I will. Thank you.
We had done that whole spreadsheet through WUSC, and we've seen it here at council a time or two as well, with the 1.5% increase in sewer. So, and like, my understanding from the meeting on Thursday is the 3% and 0.5% is going out, correct, for a few years?
That is correct. We did it that way with the understanding that council wanted to stay as close to 3% as possible. Could sewer benefit by a higher increase? Absolutely. Is a 0.5 doable? It is. You've seen what the projections were for the next couple of years for the fund balance. Anything can happen in there. Joel continues to reassure me that, there will be money available if needed out of the general fund balance, but I don't like to borrow from anybody, even when it's offered. So yeah, it is totally council's decision on what you want to set rates at or increase rates at. We present a plan that's workable and doable. Is it the best option? possibly not, but it is, by understanding, wanting to keep it as close to 3% and keep it doable, that was our focus.
So I guess then the question for me, Doug, is we had seen it at the 1.5%.
Yep.
Through WUSC, through council previously. We know that construction materials, construction costs, everything is increasing. I guess I don't see how that can possibly decrease by a whole percentage. And then our
There's-
fund balance is being depleted
Right.
pretty significantly.
For me, what's the concerning part is, as much as the fund balance decreased over this last year, because I was looking back today, trying to figure out what is changing. And looking at the budget from last year to this year, what the projected fund balance was ending fiscal year '23, our current year, what we projected a year ago, and what we're projecting now for 2 months down the road has changed significantly in 9 to 10 months. If we see that same change this coming year, yeah, both funds will definitely be in trouble. As you mentioned, expenses are going up. Consumers notified me this winter, the commission approved several different rate increases for consumers. What that means for the sewer plant, it's $100,000 increase in electricity costs for the year. For the water plant, it's about 40 to 45,000 for the year. Can we continue to see that with, only a 0.5% increase covering it? Right now, we're saying 0.5% will cover what we have seen. I mean, yes, the fund balance is getting concerning low. Within a couple of years, on the sewer side, it does start increasing. Water side takes a little bit longer before it starts increasing. So that's why we felt, the 0.5% is doable. But, definitely anything more would be additional.
And I guess that's my concern, and I tried to voice that on Thursday too, is that consistency is also a huge concern, and it's been voiced many times. So if we're decreasing to a 0.5%, even though we've already projected for many, many years that we could increase that fund by the rates
Yep,
by 1.5%, that next year we're gonna have to bump it way up again.
Yep, well, and what it also means is, there's not as much money being put aside for identified projects, not only at the water and wastewater plant, but road projects, Rossman Park neighborhood, that's been identified for many years. We just keep pushing it back, without, adequate increases. We'll never save money. Not saying we'll save enough money to pay cash for projects like that, but we would like to pay a portion of cash on that and then have to bond for the rest of it. Smaller stuff, water tower painting, that's a couple $100,000 a tower. We gotta paint them about every 15 years or so, 15 to 20. We don't wanna bond out for something that small. That's a cash payment. We have money, in our reserve fund to paint a tower next year, but that's it. We were supposed to paint one in either 25 or 26 again, the north tower. And there will not be money available at that time to paint that tower. So that, there is a 1 or 2 year leeway. They're not going to rust and fall apart in 1 year without painting, but you want to keep up on it because otherwise they do, degrade and need additional work.
Don't we put money into the reserve fund for the painting of the towers?
Yes, but most
So-
of that money has been pulled out to balance the budget.
Oh,
Can I ask, what gives us confidence that the sewer fund balance is going to go in a different direction over the next few years?
What gives us confidence that it's going to? In 2030, 2029, 2030, several of the bonds start coming off for sewer. We have more bonds in sewer than we do water. But just the projections we have, the sewer fund gains more faster than the water fund does. Sewer, we do have other revenue streams because, a lot of the sewer is based on water. What people use for water, they flush down the toilet, they get billed for water, get billed for sewer. On the sewer side, we do have the revenue streams from the septage and the industrial waste. What we charge Payroll, because we do a lot of their pre-treatment essentially for them or treat heavier waste, we charge them additional, besides just the sewer rate, we charge them a surcharge for what they put down the drain. That one I see as, Payroll can increase or decrease lines as their business sees fit. Whereas the septage for sure, as long as we keep that revenue coming in, houses out in the township and the county are always gonna have to have their septic tanks pumped. So I put that on the same lines as residents, it's something that will always be coming in.
Does that septage receipt and industrial receipt, does that go into that same restricted fund as the residential rates?
It all goes into the sewer fund and then based on what's available in budget. So when we do budget, we go through and you have to figure your O&Ms first. Everything that's required, operational, maintenance, debt reservice. You figure that, how much you need for that, and then what's the difference between that and what your receivables are. Then you can say, all right, I want to put this much into savings for, repairs and replacements. If O&M equals what receivables are, there's zero going into repairs and replacement.
Maybe I asked that incorrectly. I was just making sure that the septage receipt, the money that we charge for that gets treated the same way as sewer rates, meaning that that money coming from sewage can only be used for sewer.
Yes, you are correct. Septage and liquid industrial byproducts all go into the sewer fund. Per state law, it has to stay in sewer fund. It can be loaned out to others, but it cannot just be given. A service has to be charged in order for it to come out of sewer to a different fund.
Okay.
On that topic, we've projected a decrease in our industrial waste.
Right now,
Revenue.
the industrial waste is kind of leveling off. I'm still trying to find other streams, other waste coming in. I think where we're at now, companies always change their mind and someone's always trying to offer a better deal. I think where we're at, I'm comfortable. I haven't heard anything that, they're looking to find a different place to dispose of their waste at this point.
Thanks, Doug. I'm just gonna say that I would feel more comfortable if our sewer rate increased the 1.5 that we have projected, just to keep it on a more positive trajectory. If it's something that this year's budget, we keep it at the 0.5, but then with an understanding that next year it goes back to the 1.5 forward. That's just kind of where I'm at with this. That's very concerning to me, that low level of increase.
I see it as council's option. I mean, they can direct staff to, put it wherever. We give you a picture of what will work. By any means, it's not putting a lot away for.
We have a raised hand.
Well, first, of course, it's council's direction. Delora, just for clarification, I want to make sure I hear you correctly. So you're saying 3% for water and 1.5 for sewer? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, I just want to make sure I was hearing that correctly. Thank you very much.
I was surprised to learn that the 1.5% increase was actually a policy. I was under the impression that was a resolution that was more of a guidance. And it looked like in that resolution last year, it should have been per policy a 1.5% increase to water. But this year, it looks like that's sunset. And I wonder if we need to revisit that policy again so that we can set ourselves on a good trajectory and make sure we stick with
Is this the-
following that policy.
Is this the resolution that you're talking about that we resolved to do? I don't think that it's anything written in policy that we have that.
Well, we received a copy of the resolution, and the resolution made it
The
policy.
resolution, yeah. Right?
Did I read
Yeah.
that correctly?
No,
The
yeah,
resolution?
I would agree with the way Dave is framing it, is the phrase I'm gonna use. That resolution that council put together in 2017, it projected for the next 5 years, and it ended in 22, I believe. I'm going off memory right now on what I
Correct.
sent to you.
Yes, that's what, yes.
And so, in a way, I would phrase it, from my own words, it was like an unwritten I mean, it was written down in the resolution, it's established it, but nowhere did you see in there, it's gonna be 1.5% per year indefinitely. It was just more of a gut check, similar to our general fund balance. When I first showed up here, Joel, we want to keep it at 20% or $1 million, whatever is higher. We're well north of that figure right now. So it might be, and then Doug, as Doug and I discussed this, water rates and, raising rates, and I consistently remind him I'm a ratepayer myself. We have a unique water system, and our water system is different than Wayland's or Otsiko's or Plainwell's or Kalamazoo's or Holland's or the Kalamazoo Lake Sewer Authority, which is Saugatuck Douglas. And we can't look at other communities and see where they are, because what it takes to run ours is different than what it takes to run theirs. But it would be wise for us to look at that, again, maybe that policy and just, revisit it. And one thing, Doug, we've talked about a couple of times is bringing in and during a study session, doing that, putting the software up on the screen so you can see the projections and the different tabs at the bottom. And, when you ask how we're comfortable at that level. Because we can see what the numbers lay in, but what we don't see is this year we had a $100,000 water pipe break that we weren't planning on at the water treatment plant.
Correct.
That required us to pivot. So,
This was kind of my question about confidence in the direction of the fund was if things came up this year that put that projection off by quite a bit, and we didn't foresee that this year, how do we know we won't have a similar experience next year?
We don't, we never know, I mean, Joel's mentioning the raw water pipe in the water plant itself, that one should never break again because we're replacing with stainless steel, but who's to say that something else doesn't break? If it's a natural break, a tornado hits something, insurance will cover it, help us cover it, that type of thing, but if it's just a pipe breakage because it's old or it's stressed or, something on those means, that's on the city. So, we don't know when, things are, we do the asset management planning to try and, this is the life expectancy of these parts, but sometimes they break faster than expected. Case in point is on this with the septic receiving. We have grinder units that the septic goes through. Manufacturer says those will last 15 years. They last 2 years in a septic condition. So we're seeing that. At first we planned every 15 years. Well, it failed, we waited 5 years and it was horribly degraded. I mean, it wasn't doing anything after 5 years. We're now down that we replace them, it's about every 2 to 3 years. And that's a matter of, we have to adapt and, change as the conditions, as we see the conditions. But there are other things that, pipes in the water plant or a pipe in the ground, we don't know when it's going to break, that we have to repair it. So yeah, I mean, it's having fund balance available for when things happen. And for the next year or two, there is very limited funds unless we borrow from the general fund.
Thank you.
I'll just say that we have major water leaks that we're not sure where they're at or how much they're gonna cost to fix right now. anyway.
And hopefully, those types of leaks are repairable by staff. I'll say we're getting that we can do a lot more, but there may be conditions that we can't get, the sewer that they're replacing on Brady Street at 20-some foot deep, we could never work on that. We don't have the equipment, You know, if something happened to that, you know, in 20 years, that would be, you know, calling Millbockers in to repair that sewer. There are other places where we actually have water mains that deep. You know, our backhoe will go 10 foot, maybe 12 at most. The little mini excavator we purchased for water services, that'll do 8 to 10 foot. You know, we can't get to the 15 to 20 foot depths of sewers and water. So if something happens on those, that's contracting it out.
And just for the rest of the council, one of the reasons I keep saying 1.5 is when we had that WUSC meeting, that was the projections for 20 years at 1.5 each fund. So that was like projected out.
And we've already dropped the ball on that by not charging it last year for the, as far as the water goes. And so here we are now where we use the reserve fund money for the budget this year. What, and I know hindsight, there's nothing we can do about it, but had we have stayed with the 1.5, maybe we
wouldn't be in as bad of a situation. I can't say we would not be in a situation, but
I
we would
didn't
not
say
be
a
as.
situation, I said we wouldn't be as bad as we are right now,
Correct, yes.
so. So I guess we want to ask staff to, when they put it together, try and go with a 3 and a 1.5. Is that
That would be up to
what we're saying?
council as a whole,
Right?
or a majority. And I struggle with the rate increases every year.
I know,
This is
I do
always
too.
a very difficult discussion. I'm trying to just keep in mind, though, like I mentioned earlier, that it's not at the rate of inflation right now. So that's at least a positive, but
Well, if we do the
Not
3 and the
comfortable with a
1.5,
1.5.
we'll be real close to the cost of inflation.
I think it's important to stay disciplined to a plan, and that was our plan and our projection, and I think that's important. I'm very concerned about the current situation. I'd like to get some clarity on how we ended up here this year, because that, I think, is the best way to get confidence in how good our plan is gonna be moving forward.
How we got where, Dave? Like,
How the fund balances got to this point. Because I'm hearing like, oh, there was $100,000 on this pipe, but we're more than $100,000 less than what we thought we would be. And I know that we didn't do the 1.5% on water, and that contributes obviously to that water decrease in funds. But I think, I mean, one of the funds is down $1 million, the other's down $2 million.
I wish Tracy was here, but Joel might know. Yeah, and wouldn't we see those in budget adjustments, wouldn't we?
Yeah, so if there's anything that staff, that was paid for that was not budgeted, that would have been viewed through a budget adjustment,
And
which,
we would see it moved from fund and put into another fund.
yeah, you see it from the fund balance going in, and we announce when there's making purchases that aren't in the budget.
Right.
Dave, we would, gladly sit down with you and Doug and show you the spreadsheet we work on. We can do that in one-on-one, hook it up to the large conference room. Doug, I'm kind of speaking for you, but I believe you're willing to share that information with anyone.
Yep.
And so we can gladly kind of go through that process on how the projections work.
Yeah, I mean, would love to, we'll meet here, show you, we'll want Tracy there too, she can go through the budget part. Just to, I guess, put a little more light on what, I think what you're asking, what you're asking about. When I looked at the budgets, so for fiscal year 23, our current year, when council adopted the budget to where it is currently, the fund balance for sewer has decreased by $1 million. You're asking, where did that $1 million go? How did that fund balance decrease by $1 million? On the water side, it changed by $600,000. It's less. On the general ledger that I got the numbers off of, it's $600,000 less now than it was when it was adopted. So how did that fund balance change by those numbers? I believe is what you're asking.
Yes.
So yeah, if you would like to meet here, we will go through and try and pinpoint why, those changes, what has changed.
I mean, is that information important to the discussion we're having here? Should we just have that as information for all of council?
That's up to council. I mean, if we wanted to have it, I would say it's money spent because it's shown going out, but the question is, does council want to know where it has been spent?
But you think your big concern is, how do we get here so we know we don't get there going forward,
Correct.
right? So maybe is 1.5 enough in the sewer, or, I mean, is that,
Are we doing something that we need to change
yeah.
in addition to that? I mean, I think that Dolores' point is well taken. We had a plan, and like I said earlier, we should stick to the plan, but is there something even beyond that that's going on that we need to be looking at? And that could be a policy question for council. I think there's a lot to understand there. I'd hate to be one of 7 making demands of information and calls on policy on my own there,
So, is that something that everyone would be interested in seeing?
Do we want to have
Where-
a couple WUS committee meetings? I mean, one member is no longer on council, so,
The West Committee doesn't exist anymore.
all right.
I would offer that you if the council as a whole would like to do a deep dive into the projections, you schedule a special workshop meeting where we can gather around a table looking at that screen. I mean, there's 63 tabs on the spreadsheet.
On the rate making one, no, there's like 100 and some. Not
think-
all are used.
Not
but-
all are used, but thank you. So it is jumping around from tab to tab, changing, a value on this to changing a value on that, which is very useful, and I know you could all understand that. But I think for Doug, it'd be easier to be sitting at a table showing than trying to stand at a podium and control his.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in my mind, I don't know that I necessarily need that, but I think just figuring out, and I know we don't know what we don't know coming in the future, and we didn't know what pipes were gonna burst in the treatment plant, but is there something that we could learn? I mean, I don't know, we need to go through tab by tab or, line by line, but is there something we could have predicted that we didn't, or is the system working the way it's supposed to, and we just had extra stuff, extra things come up? Yeah.
There should be a trail of how the fund balance has changed through change orders or amendments to the budget. I mean, it didn't just get changed, it has to be recorded somewhere somehow of what has changed to change that fund balance. So, that, I'm kind of speaking for Tracy on this because that's her field. That I would assume is kind of easy to pull up of what, budget amendments there were.
It is.
That was gonna be my suggestion. If Tracy could just pull together, if council wanted it, like a list of the major changes, budget adjustments that were made to water and sewer fund. I know that some of the fund balance has gone to the streetscape project, so, like a total of what that was, and then those budget adjustments. I mean, would that help, Dave, if you just got like a list
That-
out of?
Yeah, that sounds like helpful information.
I think that would be better to look at than these because, I've looked at that in WUSC, and it's very confusing unless you know
Yeah.
what you,
I would agree. I mean,
what you're doing.
the first couple glances at it, and because I'm familiar with, I'll flip through them and,
Exactly.
people get lost,
So-
so.
But again, if you want to know how the sausage is made, we will gladly invite a council member or 2 council members in. I mean,
And I appreciate that.
we'll show you how the sausage is made.
Yeah. I'm sure most of us appreciate that, Joel. Will that help you then, if we just get a list from Tracy to see if that helps, Dave, or?
Sure, yeah, I think
Okay.
that could help.
So let's start there, and then if they're still kind of up in the air,
Sure,
we have want more detail, then, okay,
thank you.
got that. Yeah. Good question, Dave. Okay, anything else on,
And then, did we want to direct staff to do anything with the rate increase, or what's the thought on that?
I
I
would
think you're
like to
right.
see, I mean, yeah, I hate the thought of it, but I'm with Delora. You know, we do a half this year and next year, oh, now we need to do 5 to make up for, you know,
It seems like it would be the same mistake we made last year.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yep, with the water, yep. Okay. All right, good. Okay, there you go, staff. Delora, was that it on your list, or did you do? No?
That's it.
Oh. All right. Roger, do you have anything after all that?
Nothing from me.
Delora always steals the show, so. Mike, do you have anything? Okay.
Was there any questions, did you want an update on the lead service replacement? Because I know Joel had mentioned that those questions during the last budget meeting.
Oh, do we want to do that now at round table?
We can.
Okay.
However, or if I'm jumping ahead,
No, go ahead. Joel's ready, so here we go.
so,
Okay.
we got the money from the Booker funding, we got $3 million. Initially, working with the engineers, it was decided that, you know, some of the services would be better to be replaced by city staff. We felt, you know, city staff, we could, you know, hopefully get more services done for the dollar versus a contractor. So it was looked at, you know, when we initially looked at the neighborhoods, you know, it's like, all right, these services, city staff can replace, but then we got into services that, you know, essentially in the same neighborhood, but maybe just a different street. The water main had not been replaced, so we were gonna have to go all the way to the water main, there'd be road patching. That was more than the city staff wanted to get into. So the contractor said, the engineer said, let's do a mix. Some city staff, some contractor replacements. So, we developed this map, along with the engineers, highlighting, individual parcels of ones that we felt city staff were able to do. Primarily, those would be the ones from the curb stop and the road right-of-way to the structure. And then the areas that we felt that the water main was old, it probably still had lead, under the road or going from the main to, the curb stop and then to the house. So, when we divided up the map, we color-coded it for contractor work and city work. That was the way it was bid out for the contractor. I think we identified it was 92 services, I believe, for the contractor, in various neighborhoods. We had it listed as Area 1, which was, I always look at it starting by Thomas and Jackson, and then working north up across Ely Street into the Sherman neighborhood, across M89, into the Russell Robinson neighborhood, and up to the fairgrounds. That was zone, or Area 1. And then Area 2 was on the other side of the river, being River Street, North Main, those two main streets, and then Padgham Drive, Hill Street, Catherine Court, in those areas. It was bid out for the contractor. Obviously, Milbacher's the contractor. He had started down on Jackson Street. In the contract, it allows the contractor, he has to investigate first, meaning potholing, digging to make sure that there is lead and/or galvanized on the service. When he got to Jackson Street, there was actually several of them that were already copper, changed over from the main all the way into the structure.
Bless you.
So, you know, those ones, once he identifies that, fill the hole back in, move on to the next. I will admit, the contractor, you know, he has several more staff, crew than what the city does, and he is going gangbusters. You know, he will have his 90 services done. He's projecting by the end of May. I think he'll be into June, but still, I mean, he's going at a fast pace, which is great. Downside is, city staff, we're out there, we have to locate the existing services. it's not always easy. There's one service up on Arnold Street, our operator spent better part of a day today trying to locate it, still has not located it. He's like, he finally come back and said, I think it's a poly pipe without a tracer wire, which poly we don't have to replace, but he's like, I can start at the house, I can start at the main, and I get nothing. He took the Vector truck out there, started potholing, putting small holes in the ground to find it, still could not get to it. So we told the contractor, at this point, we believe it's poly, we can't locate it, move on. Don't wait for us, keep moving. So we'll have to come back at that as city staff later on, and it may be pothole down the whole side of that main until we find the service, but we have, state requires that we have to identify it. So, I mean, we're spending a lot of time with the contractor. Our crew is also out there. We've been working in the Thomas neighborhood. We did one out there today. I believe we have either one or two more, and then we'll be jumping across M40 to Thomas and working towards Ely Street. So, yes, we are moving slower than the contractor at this point, but, once the contractor's done, we'll have more staff to put towards it, and we feel that we will be, picking up pace as well. So, I guess did that answer questions? Are there other questions on lead service replacement?
Go ahead.
Doug, how did you identify those services to be replaced? Are those known lead or
So,
galvanized connections?
Some of them are known lead. Some of them we've gone out and through our lead sampling program, we have potholed already and found that they're have lead in the line. Other ones are best educated guesses. We looked at the maps we have on our distribution system. If there are old mains that have not been replaced since 1970, we have the mains on Thomas Street, some of them are 1950s. Up on Delano Street, they actually found a lot of lead goosenecks on Delano Street. That's a 1950s main. And, just by looking at the map, oh, this main is, 70 years old, it's never been replaced. It probably has lead in there. If they've been replaced, then it's a matter of when were the houses built. So if the main was replaced 20 years ago, typical procedure at that point was put a new main in, disconnect the lead, and run copper to the curb stop, which is great, but state law now says if there's galvanized from the curb stop to the house and you can't prove that was always copper or it might have been connected to lead, you have to replace the galvanized to the structure. So, a lot of them were also in that category of, well, the main was replaced 40 years ago, but those houses are turn of the century houses. So they most likely have galvanized. The survey we sent out right about as COVID hit. We sent a survey out to all the residents, everyone that gets a water bill. Excellent response. We had over a 30% response. But they, tried to identify what service is coming into the house. I'm gonna say 90% were correct in what they identified as, gray metal, most likely galvanized coming into the house. If we got a notice or a survey back from the resident that they had galvanized coming into the house and it was a main that was replaced 20, 30 years ago, they're on the list to be replaced. So, as we went through the map, we're looking at the map, we're looking at tax records, if it's a new house, oh, that house is brand new, it was built, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they don't need one. They're probably all copper or all poly, they weren't slated for replacement, so.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm very thankful for the Booker funds and the fact that we're getting such a good jump start on this.
Yes.
Years-long,
Yep.
decades-long project.
And
so.
I'll just mention that the other grant we received, the DWAM grant, because we have to identify a certain percentage, positively identify a certain percentage by 2025, the DWAM grant will pay for whether it's city staff or a contractor to come in and do that exploratory to identify those services so we can get a, what they call a verified survey into the state on time. And that's all paid for by the state.
Thanks,
So-
Doug.
Dave?
I saw in the memo that Booker funds can't be used to pay contractors. Does that have an impact on our
So
plans here?
it's a little misleading. You can contract the work out, so like we contracted with the Millbachers. That work has to be bid out. And then you can use a contractor. If it's force account work or city workers, at first, when we wanted to do that, we're like, all right, we'll just, hire a crew, a temporary, what would we consider a temporary crew, or contract labor, where they're not on the payroll, so instead of getting $20 an hour, they get $40 an hour, but that includes all the benefits as a contract worker. The Booker Funds does not allow that. Booker Funds specifically says for force account work, they have to be city employees on the city payroll with city benefits. Same way with equipment. We purchased a drill last year. The Booker Fund says if you do force account work, you cannot go out and either buy a new drill and charge it directly to Booker Funds, or rent a drill and charge to Booker Funds. What is allowed is if you own a drill, you can charge a acceptable rental rate for use of the equipment. So like the MDOT rate for, MDOT has a list 25, 26 pages long of equipment that they allow, whether it's MDOT themselves or county, city, that they use to charge themselves a rental rate on equipment for payback on the equipment as it's being used. So as a city, we went out, we purchased the equipment we thought we would need for it. For the Booker funding reimbursement, I have a rental rate in the MDOT listing for the directional drill, for the mini excavator, for the trailers we use, for the trucks we use. I have a whole one-sheet spreadsheet that the operator takes when they're on the job. We had that truck, the drill, this equipment, we use these parts. And then I go through and I assign rates based on the MDOT rates of what we're charging ourselves rent on that piece of equipment. And then that is reimbursable by Booker funds.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
A little in depth, but that's,
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's why we actually hired those 3 operators, is that correct?
That is
So we
correct.
didn't actually have them as contract employees, they're city
right,
employees.
right. And, we hired them last May, they all started, so about a year ago. Booker funding did take a little bit longer to get here, but we were able to utilize those 3 extra staff members to get our water meters in, so. We used them, may not have been what they were initially hired for the first few months, but it got our work done that we needed.
Any more discussion for roundtable? Okay, thank you, Doug.
Yep, you're welcome.
Next on the agenda is number 4, discussion on a resolution regarding the relocation of certain Allegan County. Sorry about that, my mic wasn't on. Number 4, discussion on resolution regarding the relocation of certain Allegan County functions from the county courthouse to the county services building. Joel, you gonna take this?
Sure, yeah, I'll just introduce this for
Thank you.
council's discussion.
Yep.
At your last meeting, council directed staff to put a resolution together regarding the relocation of certain county functions from the county courthouse to their facility up at Dumont Lake. We put together the resolution. On the screen behind you is 3 of the 4. Now, there are 4s that come at the end of the resolution, stating that the city of Allegan urges Allegan County Board of Commissioners to follow state law, that the county urges, or the city urges the County Board of Commissioners to continue to recognize the city of Allegan as the county seat, which I believe is something that they've always said they will do. And then the 3rd one is the city of Allegan urges Allegan County Board of Commissioners to continue to support the economic vitality of the city of Allegan by fully utilizing the county courthouse. So those are the three of the four. The fourth one is any resolution that is against this resolution is now null and void or something like that. The diagram I'm showing you is a diagram. It's of the, what I'm going to call the first floor. It's what they identify to as the first floor for the improvements they plan on making. This is that grassy area at that corner where the county building cuts in. This is where they're going to be doing their construction. This green shaded area is identified on this bubble diagram as elected official principal office service area. So this is the area where the principal offices have to be for the elected officials. And that's what they're showing on their diagram. So I believe it was February 23rd, or yeah, February 23rd meeting that the County Board of Commissioners is when they authorized their county administrator to begin the project of, building this addition and relocating some functions of the county out to the Dumont complex and making improvements out at Dumont as well. But that was the resolution we drafted for you.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments?
I don't have any questions. I was just gonna say, I feel like those therefores are pretty much exactly what we had asked council or staff to include. So I feel like that really encompasses, the spirit of what I was getting at, and hopefully everybody else. A couple of the whereases on the first page, though, there was just one thing that I kind of was wondering about. It's the, whereas due to the city of Allegan serving as the county seat, I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. It says it's resulted in an undetermined economic value to the local economy. I think if we can all agree that there is an impact to the local economy, the word undetermined really isn't necessary there. I mean, there is clearly an impact of individuals coming into the courthouse and staff to our economy. So I don't know that we need the word undetermined there to say we don't know exactly how much. We know there is one.
That can be scratched.
Okay,
Is that what you're at? I mean, that's what you're asking, is just that,
just take that word out.
no problem.
If others are fine with that, like I said.
Yeah, I think so.
So for staff's own direction, if there's not much discussion on the resolution, would you like to see that? I believe it's the May 10th. Thank you, Michaela. The May 8th meeting for your action?
I have a couple questions, I guess, on this. On the last parts, therefore be it resolved. And this might be a question for Mr. Sorrow. The City of Allegan urges Allegan County Board of Commissioners to continue to recognize City of Allegan. Is that a well-established legal status, the county seat being in the City of Allegan?
Yes.
Well, I think that that's probably part of what may be in dispute in terms of the historical aspects of that. In other words, has there been a formal vote transitioning from, a component of the township to the city, things of that nature. That said, again, it's been the namesake, and as I stood before the council before and have said, even in the case of Ottawa County, if you were to Google Ottawa County today and Google county seat of Ottawa County, it's going to come up as Grand Haven, regardless of where those offices are located. So I could say that as written here, the county at this point, I couldn't agree that that's the county's position. What I can say is we're not looking for any particular change relative to that. We're just looking to allocate appropriate space to the needs of the entire county.
And on the third bullet point, is there still a plan to fully utilize the county courthouse?
Absolutely, and that's why I wanted to spare any comment. I listened to the meeting from the last time. There's a number of statements that certainly could be, refuted, but I think we have to, this is such a cyclical discussion at this point, and the county's more interested in getting back to the true value of partnership, like, you know, the partnership we just had on the improvement project and the $500,000 that's been allocated from there, and the discussions through your strategic planning. So from that perspective, you know, we're looking at, does this pose any real, you know, concern for the county? And I would say from that perspective, you know, we already see, based on our research, that we are following state law in our plans. We see that the plans, quite frankly, are actually the most conducive to the city's request. And I would say request because we've had a number of discussions. And one of those requests were that, at least in part, the principal offices remain, you know, within the city of Allegan. And that was documented, and so we're doing that now. So I think with respect to, you know, are we following state law? The county would say absolutely. Are we fully utilizing the economic vitality, you know, utilizing the courthouse to the vitality of the city of Allegan? Well, again, using the city's own studies, I've spent a lot of time there. I don't know that that really can be determined. The numbers that have been provided before, I have in writing that they're not able to be differentiated between physical traffic and actual transactions, although they were stated at the time as such. So I think when we look at that one, we would say, look, based on observations and based on not being tied to seasons or any one type of transaction, we believe there's much more support and data for the ongoing impact of courthouse functions to the, you know, city impact on a regular basis. And to that degree, we would say any square footage that we're using for ongoing court functions is going to be extremely valuable to the city, potentially versus other functions. That said, we're also already moving in the direction of saying, but the principal offices will still be there anyway, and therefore all of the commerce, to whatever degree it's able to be generated, will remain available at the courthouse, even though people will be able to choose to do that at DeMont, or quite frankly, and hopefully as trends continue to bring more services to the citizens rather than try to you know, bring them across a 900 square mile county, they'll have more options to do those kind of things digitally. So we think that this plan, and having looked at the resolution in the packet, we think that the county's plan is very in line with most of what the city's saying here. And as to the county seat, we'll just have to see from a legal perspective how much of a factor that is. I would say we've seen resolutions that call for a vote under the Constitution that basically says that the vote is to, quote, move the county seat. I don't know if I see that as advantageous to the city, depending upon how that would happen. So again, I think that this is really a plan that says, look, principal offices are staying within the city of Allegan, functions are going to DuMont.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else I can address from members well?
Is there any more questions? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna note real quick in a review of our proposed master plan on page 1 of the introduction. It specifically states that, or it identifies
Yeah.
the city of Allegan as the county seat.
So if I,
But it's just something that is identified and has been, so, like, yeah.
so besides striking the word undetermined, is there any other changes you like the council would like to see?
I didn't see any, no.
Right. Then we will put this on the May 8th agenda for your vote as written with striking the word undetermined.
Thank you, Joel.
Rob's got.
Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
I should just clarify that, as Manager Dye had mentioned, the space that's on the diagram now was from the bubble diagram phase that the board has adopted. Part of that resolution was, of course, though, and as you're doing a lot of different construction planning and stuff yourself, you know, these things progress. So I would say the actual square footage assessed and the actual location of it, you know, very, very much may change. But just since that's kind of presented as part of it, I just wanted to clarify that. I think they might even be looking at a little bit more square footage, but basically we're working with an architect and maintaining standards across the whole building on a per office, per employee allocation of square footage, and still just trying to determine what's gonna be the most advantageous to, keep it at that main entrance. There are other functions that are publicly, that public tries to, kind of come in and do what they need and get out as well in terms of the legal service, legal assistance center and whatnot. So anyway, just wanted to be aware that, probably about at least another 30 days out or so from what we would call design detail being approved. And that'll have much more specific as to the final expected locations. But it's definitely in the plans to be in the building regardless of the exact square footage and/or floor location, so. I should just provide a little update too, as manager mentioned, that build out in that corner, will be a little bit of an expansion. Will require the, statue to be moved, and the board, very quickly began to work with the members of the Historic Society to kind of look for guidance and get ideas as to the best way to move that. And at least based on preliminary discussions, I think we're looking at the northwest corner of the property has been the main discussion, so. That'd be kind of right across from the old jail, the historic, and the church.
gotcha.
There's already, it wouldn't seem to interfere with our parking. There seems to be, reasonable sort of green space around it, and they thought that was kind of their recommendation as well. And there was other members that were different stakeholders that were there too, and I've kept Joel in the loop. And so you'll probably see, some discussions on that, and if all of that pans out, that's probably something that we would want to do very early in the process, and maybe even have some ceremonies around the move and that kind of thing. And so we'll keep you all engaged on that, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rob, for coming and giving us the input. Any more discussion amongst council on that resolution? Okay. Moving on down to number 5, discussion regarding the future of the Historic District Commission. I guess we've all heard from Joel, we've all talked it over and over and over, and it's time that we kind of get this on the agenda for a vote and get it over with. So, I guess let's see what everybody has to say. Dave, do you want to start? Do you want to give your opinion? How do we want to do this? Everybody say what they feel? I'm sick of beating this.
Yeah, I believe we voted on this already, and I don't know of another vote we've had, like, not in favor of what we voted on before, so I'm unsure what the status of this is.
I thought when we voted that night, we undid our vote.
And then we voted in favor of it again with an amendment. And the amendment that's written in the minutes isn't the exact spirit that I recall, but what's written in the minutes is that we would adopt the recommendation from the study and add an application process. What I recall from the meeting was Alan Higgins was here, there was some dispute about the letter. Alan actually apologized for the letter and said that was premature. Didn't have well-represented information when that letter was created, and so he was very supportive of working with the commission on a path forward. That seemed to be the commission's concern after we had had the first vote. So the amendment that I recall was, well, okay, let's give the commission leeway to work with the CLG representative to figure out if there's a way to follow the recommendation from the study and remain in compliance. And I think that was I can definitely still support that direction. I'm interested to hear if other council members feel that's not the right direction anymore.
So I just pulled up the minutes here real quick, Dave, and it looks like they're referring to that we had voted to accept their findings report with addition of the application process. So I know that that meeting got very convoluted at the end there with that. I guess my recollection was that we had told them the Historic District Commission to go back and decide how they wanted to act with that recommendation, whether they wanted to come forward with that again after having discussion, or whether they, were gonna continue meeting, I guess that, I'm not sure how everybody else recalls that.
I was thinking it was just, we kind of agreed with their three options and to do an application process. I don't think we really voted on the which one of the three options we wanted, is what I recall.
It doesn't specify in the minutes what we did?
So, sorry. I'll just read them out here really quickly. So we had a motion from Byrd with support from Reading to accept the Historic District Commission's findings report as presented.
Yeah.
And then we went back and we reconsidered that motion because there hadn't been that application process anywhere like noted in that. It had kind of taken that away from it. So then we did a motion from Byrd with support from Andrus to accept the Historic District Commission's findings report with the addition of an application process. And then I thought we had directed them to meet again to determine how they were going to come forward with the recommendation, because the one that they had come forward with wasn't going to work with the CLG in SHPO.
Mm-hmm. And as I recall, they reluctantly accepted that.
Correct, and then they came back in February and said that they were more in favor of a dissolution of the HDC after their February meeting, which was following our joint meeting in January.
Because they only had one approval. And there was just a quorum there, correct, Joel? You had called a special meeting on a special night because there was only one thing on the agenda.
Correct. Yeah,
And
I'm
they
recalling that.
just had a quorum, because you begged one of them to show up so that you had a quorum to approve something.
So the HDC's final recommendation was, I can pull it up here.
On
I'm sure we
page
all have it right
22,
here.
it's the final recommendation of the study, and then page 23, it's next steps to align with that final recommendation.
But then they came back on February the 3rd, is their HDC final recommendation on page 24.
And that's not a recommendation that I remember supporting at this point. I remember supporting the one on page 22 and with the motion that we made that night, and the next steps that are on page 23.
So yeah, this one just says that the recommendations changed in light of the newly discovered information, and that they recommend city council create an ordinance to prevent the demolition of historic structures unless the structure is beyond salvaging, and/or create a conservation district in place. And then we further recommend that city council dissolve the Historic District Commission. And I think this is what brought up this conversation, and we never took any action on this recommendation from February 3rd.
Where are you reading from?
It's in the packet on page 24.
There we go.
So in light of that, and also for me, like in light of the reading through our master plan, and I've brought this up previously, we want to implement, or the planning commission would like to implement some new land uses. Our demographics have changed dramatically. I'm in favor at this point of rescinding the ordinance that we have currently for HDC. And then we can discuss whether we would like a new designation, whether that's just a downtown district, so we would remain able to get any CLG funds, or we just dissolve entirely. And if there's a group of citizens that want to create the district again, like that's how this came up in the first place in the 80s, then we leave that to them to do. We just don't have the staffing ourselves, and our HDC commission seems like they're done and don't want to do it. I mean, granted, if we if we tell them they need to, we may see a lot of resignations, I would assume, from that group.
And we can't even get a full group. You know, they still have seats available and nobody wants to be a part of it. And, I mean, that was the night of the discussion with only the 3 that showed up. You know, the rest of them don't show any interest in it. So I agree with Delora that I think we just need to dismantle and start over if we choose to.
Mike, would
And-
you just speak to like what the group has discussed at the meetings recently? Have you had any meetings recently? I know we hadn't had many applications coming forward, so you guys hadn't met for a while.
They didn't really discuss it during that next meeting. He just said we gave them their recommendation, and they didn't like it. And so, I mean, that was Eddie's decision.
Is that when he wrote this final recommendation on February 3rd?
Yeah. Well,
So
sometime after that.
So they met Thursday, February 2nd.
Okay.
They were supposed to meet on February 6th, but they couldn't get a quorum for February 6th. And I go, we have an application then, can we meet sooner? So they had a special meeting. Unfortunately, I was at a conference, Parker Johnson filled in for this one. Item number 6 for the item number 6 on the agenda for the HDC meeting for February 2nd stated, discussion regarding the January 31st, 2023 joint city council meeting. The HDC discussed the joint council meeting. Motion by Keonis Walker, supported by Raymaker, to rewrite and resubmit the HDC proposal to the city council. Motion carried 5-0. And then at the next meeting, which would have been March 6th, the minutes were corrected, showing that Mike Zeter voted no, recommending the final recommendation. Because that was a correction that we needed to make at the March meeting. So they met February and March. They did not meet in April of this month, so. They meet the first Monday of each month.
Yeah, there was no discussion on how to tweak something or change it. It was just like, they said it didn't fit, and so,
And I can appreciate the HDC's frustration at this point with the process. I think there's been a number of, my experience of it was there was a lot of excitement generated near the end. We were meeting regularly. We started to form a vision for the value that the HDC could provide in the community. And then that letter that came from the CLG that, again, Alan Higgins apologized for, I think that really created a lot of confusion in the discussion. And I think it led to a lot of frustration on the part of the HDC.
And I think that letter was sent in response to sharing their recommendation, the final recommendation, which was the demolition only, or pulling a permit would need to come in front of council, otherwise PCI would handle that. So that was shared with SHPO, which I appreciated them getting that information before we went through the whole process and said, yes, this is how we want to proceed, this is what we're going to do, and then they would come back and say, sorry, you can't do that. So,
I think there was also a fair amount of frustration with the lack of resources for the HDC for a long time now. And I think there's some neglect on the part of the city and its obligations per ordinance to the HDC. And I think that environment that was created for the HDC, and this is years going on now, but I think it became more acute during the study as well, like when PCI wasn't showing up anymore. And part of the reason that study was delivered ahead of schedule, actually, and we pushed hard at the end because we recognized that we were coming to a point of, okay, we need confirmation from council that this is even something they're interested in pursuing. Again, the group was recognizing there was value in the HDC and that there was a potential path forward, and you can see next steps again on page 23. These are things we can do to make this situation better. But there was a concern that if council was truly just done with the HDC, that we needed clarity on that before we could really talk about where we're gonna go forward. You'll see on page 23, one of the items is HDC is gonna need a budget to be successful. They're gonna need resources. There should have been an assignment of someone from the planning commission. There should have been someone from the historic society. There should have been an architect. The ordinance actually says that we would provide a budget sufficient to get done the work of the HDC. All those things haven't been happening for so long. The HDC can't be successful in that environment. And so if council's really done with the HDC, I think, I can understand that. But I think council should own that and say, we just don't feel like an HDC is a good fit for our community. I think it's too bad that we're looking at this second recommendation that I think is a product of frustration with the environment that was created.
So I really appreciate all the time and effort that you all put into analyzing the HDC and how it was functioning. And I hear what you're saying with that this is an act of frustration, which was obvious, looking at them. But I keep going back to when Rachel McKenzie was here, they voted to dissolve. So, this is not like something just happened and now they're ready to throw their hands up. Like, this is like the cycle that the HDC itself is saying, I don't think we should even exist anymore.
I do want to clarify one thing. The vote was to understand what it would look like to dissolve. What would it take to dissolve the HDC? And that was a point of frustration as well. I remember that time. And when the study came in, there was a lot of excitement again from the HDC of, oh, now we've got a chance to really understand what to do. They were fed up at that time that the original
Talking
motion.
about when Rachel was there?
Yes.
Okay.
That motion was, okay, we don't know what to do about this. We haven't been able to figure it out. We don't know where to go. We need to understand what it would look like to dissolve the HDC. The motion wasn't actually dissolve the HDC. It was, okay, we need to understand that option. And I can appreciate their desire to understand that option. I think that was an important thing to put on the table at that time. The study came in and it was well received by the HDC and well received by council, but I think there were actions that were taken during that time that really undermined the momentum of that and again caused a lot of frustration.
I just have a question. If we're in any sort of a position to follow these two-step process to achieve the goals, do we have anyone right now, city staff-wise or HDC member-wise, who is willing to take any of this information? That's the crux of the situation. That's the real question.
It is.
And I personally don't think that we do at this point in time.
I don't either. Again, I'm gonna go back to the interest that was showed during that HDC and council meeting. We had 3 people plus Mike was here as council and/or historic district, but there was only 3 other members out of a group of, is that 9 or 7? 9, isn't it?
One empty seat and really 2 empty seats, so it was a group of 5. There were 4 representatives here.
No, there's more seats than that.
There's-
There's open seats.
There's 7 seats.
Okay,
One of the
yeah.
seats was open.
So-
There's a member who hadn't been there for quite some time as well.
Right,
so-
exactly. So they probably weren't interested anymore, would be my guess. But I just don't, I could, in them guys talking, and gal, I could see that they were kind of just done with historic district, is how I took it. But
That was the impression.
that was what,
And I think at some point, some of them even might have stated that outright. And I feel for them, because they just looked defeated.
and some of that had to do with the meetings that they did have here, where there was only a few people passionate about the historic district, and other people who had homes in the historic district wanted to be able to do to their home what they could afford to do. So I think they found out that the community backing, the way the process was going, was not working.
And I would agree with that, Teresa, and I will say that again, if you look at like demographics, income levels in our master plan, and you compare that to some of the topics that were brought up during both of those meetings, it's all very connected. And I think that sometimes communities change, and things that used to be important for an entire community just are not important to the current community. And I'm not getting a sense from our community at this point that this is something that is important to them. Now, again, if there is interest and somebody comes forward and brings this back up, if council wants to have a downtown, like, historic district, we can do that. But I think as is, it's way too cumbersome. There's 400-plus properties listed there, you know, and the process to reduce those is going to be very lengthy, and I don't know that there's anybody who's willing to do that. I mean, I'm not. I don't have the time or the ability to do that. And I can't put that on the HDC knowing what their feelings are about it.
Exactly. So we need to give staff some direction on what we're gonna do so that we can put this on the agenda, vote on it, and be done with it. Because we are years in communication over this. And I am for disbanding the HDC.
At this point, given all the input that we've had, I would be in favor of that as well.
And again, what Dolores said, if we want to start over again, start right with writing new ordinances and all of that stuff, I think that's where we need to start, right back in the beginning.
And that is my hope, that we can do something fresh specifically for downtown and very historic or significantly historic properties, but the way where we are now, it's just,
And even then, I would have to offer, you know, we are remodeling a lot of our storefronts. We've added new businesses where they are not historic looking anymore. You know, we've lost some of our historic downtown district anyway, in my opinion. Now, I know Bill is not here, so I'm gonna speak on his behalf, that he did send me an email. He does not want to lose the historic feel of our old town. Bill's lived here all his life, so have I. But what Dolores says is the new people coming to town are not moving here, most cases, because we have a beautiful historic home. Some of them are, some of them aren't. So I think that's where we do something in part to reserve the Jaden Estates that's on the, you know. But you coming from out of town in, are you gonna care that that was a historic Jaden Inn? And
I mean, it's beautiful,
it
and
is.
I'd like it to stay there,
I know. So
but
what do we do to protect that if we disband historic district? In what Nick said, it sounds like we should not put the demolition verbiage in there.
You can't
Because he
defend
said we
that
can't
legally.
defend that. Yep.
And HDC in their final recommendation from February 3rd mentioned a conservation district, which came up in that joint meeting. I don't know what that entails. But it could be an option,
an alternative.
if that's the way that people want to go.
And since you brought up Bill, I know Peter's not here for our study session, but I talked with him earlier today, and he is also in favor of dissolving.
So our next step is to direct staff then to write up something to dissolve HDC.
others speak before we do that? If anybody has anything to add, it's a big decision.
I mean, are you talking who's here?
Yeah.
Oh, Mike, how do you feel about it? I mean,
I don't feel it should be dissolved. I understand that there were some hiccups along the way and some things may have gone astray or changed or given some people hard times. But the number of people that are coming, you're working with like 6 people a year? Why do away with it for 6 people a year?
Well, unfortunately, that means that the majority of homeowners aren't following the process when they're making changes that need to come through. And that's what's come up, and then enforcement issues come up, because if you're doing that work without coming before HDC,
And so the
then,
real issue becomes the enforcement part of it.
but then there are people that don't want any enforcement to happen, because people should be able to make repairs to their home that they want to make. And I'm just playing devil's advocate with you here, Mike. Just from having attended that meeting, I attended one of the meetings that, I mean, enforcement was definitely brought up, and we've had discussions around that before, that this is how the ordinance is written, this is what steps are supposed to be taken, but then that causes a lot of hard feelings. When somebody gets an order that says you need to stop putting in your windows and you need to come before HDC to continue, so.
Joel would like to.
Yeah, just for clarification, we recently submitted a 2022 CLG report, which we have to do every year. There were 16 applications last year, 16 received COA, Certificate of Appropriatenesses. So, it's not hundreds, but it's more, averaging more than one a month, a person's asking permission in the district.
And I'm sure there are more homes that have had something done to them.
I am sure as well.
So I guess we're gonna ask staff to direct to disband that, and then we bring it to council for a vote. Otherwise, it's just gonna continue. We've had the same talks over and over and over. And if we don't bring it, and if it doesn't pass, then we're back to square one. Sure, Dave.
I guess I'll say that I think there's a lot of validity in the concern about the health of the HDC committee. And I think that's an important topic that we may want to understand. I don't think HDC is the only committee that struggles to get volunteers, that struggles to get support from the community, that struggles to feel like they've got what they need to be successful. And I think that's an important point. I also think the study recommendation really did a good job of addressing a lot of the concerns that came from the public. I think it's a really good study with a really good recommendation with clear steps. And I still support that recommendation. But I understand where council's at. There's a reality that the health of the HDC is not in a place where it can function the way we need it to. And that is a real problem. And that would need to be corrected for the recommendation to be successful. I think that's absolutely correct.
So staff, are you good with that direction?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the review of the March revenue and expenditure report. Any comments on that? Anybody have anything they wanted to talk about on that?
Yeah, I did want clarity on the very last page. I just want to understand the number that's the third column, the bottom number, that 4 million for amended budget. What does that number mean?
So all revenues is, and this is why I wish Tracy would have stayed for the study session. All revenues is 25 million and some change. The expenditures to date are 29. So those are budget adjustments that she has to make, mostly probably dragging into these are for all funds across our boards, probably the bonds that we received as part of our downtown streetscape. But Dave, I'll gladly get that answer to you tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay, thank you. Just what that 4
Yeah.
million represents.
Yeah, that 4 million is the difference between revenue and expenditures. That's why it's parentheses around it. So you have the negative, you have 29 million in expenditures and 25. I'm doing the math in my head real quick. That comes out to that number. So that's what that number is.
Okay. Any more questions on that? Okay. Next is the review of the council agenda. Nothing different on that, staff, as is. We will need to excuse Councilmember Morgan. He's gone this evening. Anything else? Okay. At this time, we will adjourn. It is 6:57. How about we reconvene at 7:05? Thank you. I would like to open our city council meeting for April 24th. Michaela, would you like to do a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Zeter,
Present.
Councilmember Hands,
Present.
Councilmember Andrus,
Here.
Councilmember Redding,
Here.
Councilmember Morgan, Mayor Pro Tem Byrd,
Here.
and Mayor Galloway.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Could we get a motion, please, to excuse?
I'll make a motion to excuse Councilmember Morgan.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, if we would all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. For A, approval of the regular council meeting agenda for April 24th, 2023. As we discussed in the study session, there was no amendments.
I'll move to approve tonight's meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5 is the approval of the minutes. 5A is approval of the study session minutes from April 10th, 2023 council meeting. Did we have any changes on any of that or any questions? Okay, perfect. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved. Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5B, approval of the regular meeting minutes from April 10, 2023 council meeting. Again, any changes, anything? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5C, approval of the budget minutes from April 12th, 2023 council meeting. Again, anything different? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. All opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
Motion carries. Next, 5D, approval of the budget minutes from April 20, 2023 council meeting. And those were just handed out to us tonight.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I'll abstain due to absence.
Motion carries. Next is a special presentation and recognition by mayor or council. 6A is a Drinking Water Week proclamation from myself. Mayor's proclamation, Drinking Water Week 2023. Whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving as essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for quality of life our citizens enjoy. And whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economic and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of drinking water, or a member of a pipe crew maintaining the infrastructure communities rely on to transport high-quality drinking water from its source to consumers' taps. And whereas the coronavirus pandemic has shone a light on the importance of drinking water for health, hydration, and hygiene needs. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infiltration upon which current and future generations depend. And whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source of waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of our city, I do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023, as Drinking Water Week. Next on the agenda is public hearings and adoption of ordinance. 8A, public hearing, second reading, and adoption of ordinance 509 to amend Article 15 overlay districts of the City of Allegan zoning ordinance. Joel, you going to take this?
Sure. As we discussed at a previous meeting, and most people are aware, FEMA has spent the past few years updating our flood insurance rate maps, otherwise known as our firm maps. As part of that update, Eagle is requiring us to adopt an ordinance that identifies which individual will be responsible for overseeing what we call our floodplain management program through the building program. The city, we have a building official. Our building official is PCI. So we had to adopt ordinance 509, so it's compliant with Eagle's requirements. This ordinance has been reviewed by Eagle as well as by PCI, our building official, and local staff. Tonight is a second reading and a public hearing, so you'll just hold the public hearing and then you'll make a motion to adopt this ordinance. Any questions about the ordinance? Thank you.
Okay, it is 7:12. I'd like to open the, excuse me. It's 7:12. I'd like to open the public hearing. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:12.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 509 to amend Article 15.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, number 9, I would invite anyone with public comment for items not on the agenda to approach the podium, please. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm here to convey positive observations regarding water utility project at my house. Michael Keela, I live in Allegan. There was lead, galvanized, and a design problem that goes back to the 50s that was largely out of control. Plus, you've heard the previous discussion during your work session. I made a contact with your director, Doug Swearis. We sat down with his field supervisor, Sean Hawk. We determined the extent of the problem. People came out. They determined that the problem was indeed real. An appointment was scheduled. That appointment was kept. That appointment was down to what hour we're going to arrive in the morning and probably what time we'll be done in the afternoon. That is exactly what happened that day. The courtesy was overwhelming. Yes, sir. No, sir. My wife, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. When they came into our home, the workers knocked their boots off on the front porch or in the garage before they came into my house, and were respectful, asking permission to do that. More importantly, is the crew was assembled in a way that training was taking place. You bought a new driller thing, and hours in the seat on those kind of projects are important to the workers. You just don't say, here's $1 million piece of equipment, you probably ought to go try it. They were there under proper supervision. There was nobody leaning on a shovel. There were people actually doing the work that they came for, training. There was no vulgarity and shouting. Nobody leaning on a shovel smoking cigarettes on your nickel. My nickel. So you have the right leader in Doug Swearis. He has the right team out in the field representing you, Sean Hauk. And you have a team that does the right things at the right time, the right way. And most of the time you hear complaints. Most of the time you hear about people where things haven't worked. You got the right guy doing the right stuff at the right time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Next on the agenda is reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. 11A1 is a Downtown Development Authority April 12 meeting, and I will take this. Parker can let me know if I forget anything. Parker updated us on the, regarding the downtown improvement project. The update just included a review of the weekly updates from the contractor, a review of the selection of street furniture, and the general discussion was had. I mean, we just basically talked about some little things that was going on. Phil Sigler did request the exploration of temporary parking signs along the backsides of Locust Street businesses during Phase 2 of the project. Talking about behind the loft apartments there, and what else is along there? The old city hall back behind there. Phil did ask about signs there. You know, we obviously have apartment parking there, so, but it might be something to think about. There's also gonna be, and I might let Parker take this so he can fill us in better. We did talk about, regarding the downtown shopping passport. So I'm gonna let Parker explain that. And then, we're gonna have the April Showers downtown shopping event that actually started this past Friday, right? On the 21st. So, and then Positively Allegan, we appointed some people to that. Oh, and the most exciting thing was, the last thing on here was ATEC got the MEDC grant for $25,000. And it sounds like, was it this week they were gonna start on that? Didn't he say a week or two?
Yeah, yeah. They should
So,
be starting anytime.
They are really excited about that, and seeing that building really come in off when we get the new rounder and get Hubbard Street, that will be very awesome, so well-deserved there. So Parker, if you want to talk a little bit on that passport for the
Yeah,
council.
I think we've talked about the concept before at
I
this
think you
level.
mentioned it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the first batch of printed passports were received today. So those, I'll get the remainder of them throughout the week, but we're gonna roll out that program this week. Right on time, we wanted to get it launched within the month of April, so we're good there. Every business will have a stamp to qualify the shopper for their $10 or more purchase. Every downtown retail business, restaurant, and service, not necessarily office, but services such as Hairworks, the tattoo shops are listed in the booklet, and then there's also there's blank spaces at the end for any new businesses that may come in between now and the time that the passport expires, if you will, at the end of October. So that program will roll out this month. We'll be educating. We've already started the education for our business owners at our downtown lowdown meetings, but next this week will be the face-to-face stuff. So.
Good, thank you, Parker.
Yeah.
And that was about it for the DDA. We had a lot of stuff going on, but, next on the agenda is 11A2, the Public Spaces Commission, April 12th meeting. Parker, are you gonna take that, or Joel?
Yeah, I'll
Okay,
take that.
Thank you, Parker.
No problem. We met on the 12th when you all were in this room for your budget meeting, and then I gave Joel a hard time. We crammed 13 people into the large conference room for this meeting. We had a couple of guests, but it went really well. Two of our guests were members of the public who came. That was Bridget Wanders and Becky Weaver. They came to the Public Spaces Commission with right now just the idea of publicly crowdfunding to not just repair, but in essence replace the gazebo at Mayhem Park with a new structure. Still a gazebo, but something that's a little more, I think they're thinking like a metal structure rather than a wooden gazebo. So they were just kind of putting their feelers out and getting information from the public spaces and from city staff about how to start that process. So that'll be something that I'm sure will be pursued. We also had a couple of members from Avonmarsh come to present the plans for the improvements to Rossman Park as a result of the Spark grant from the DNR. So that was exciting. That board has seen the same stuff that you guys have with regards to the improvements, but now Avonmarsh is actually going to be sending some people out. I think they did last week, actually, to get a lay of the land and really start putting rather than concepts, real ideas. And so the board was able to discuss with them with regards to that. Peter Savage, also a member of the Friends of Oakwood Cemetery, he gives an update each month as to what's going on with that group out there at Oakwood, specifically with the upcoming Living History Tour in June. And with trees, there has been quite an ongoing conversation with regards to trees along the riverfront. You're probably aware 4 of them were cut down several years ago due to disease. That's something that the Public Spaces Commission is really eager to see replaced in some way. Specifically, we've been working, there was a tree planted last year for Arbor Day on the riverfront. There's going to be another tree planted this upcoming Friday. So we're working to add more trees to that area. Let's see what else is on here. And then we had a review of the same review that we gave the DDA of the downtown streetscape or improvement project. We went over the weekly updates and also went through a discussion of street furniture selection. So, and that was largely it.
I wanted clarification on the 4-inch tree that's being planted. Thought we were skimping on
Roger
Arbor
wants
Day.
to know if it's 4 inches.
No, sir.
4 inches.
4 inch.
Trunk.
Got it.
It's like, wow, we are cheaping out.
That could have been worded differently.
I know.
Thank you for asking.
Make sure the
That's what he said.
newspaper shoots it from the bottom. don't
Yes,
we?
yes.
I couldn't resist when Roger asked. We had to.
I was like, I said, it had to be, that's supposed to be 4 feet, right? Not at 4, oh, not height. It's
Correct.
trunk. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, that's all right. Next on the agenda is 11B. 11B1 is a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Roger, now that we have you all nice and red, would you like to take this, please?
Yes, we have accounts payable in the amount of $272,968.37, and a payroll in the amount of $108,585.86 for a total disbursement of $381,540, I'm sorry, let me try that again. $381,554.23, and make a motion to approve.
I will support that motion.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is 11B2, request to schedule a public hearing for the fiscal year 2024 budget for the May 8th, 2023 council meeting. Joel, you going to take that?
Yeah, this is a annual action by city council. What you're doing is you are letting people know that we are going to have a public hearing on May 8th regarding our fiscal year 2024 budget. The budget can be found on the city website under the finance department. after the May 8th meeting, you will be adopting this at your second meeting in May, which I believe is May 22nd. Thank you, Michaela. So next week or your first meeting in May is just the public hearing. And we will be keeping the tax rate at the same rate of 16.4884 mils. And based on the conversation during the study session, the water rate will be 3%, and the sewer rate will be 1.5%. This does take a motion for you to schedule the public hearing per your charter.
Is there any comments, any discussion? Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is 11D, Water Utilities. 11D1, request to authorize a purchase order for American Leak Detection to perform a leak detection survey in the amount of $10,000. Doug?
Yes, I have spoke to you several times about the leaks we have around the city, that we are unable to locate. I looked at two different options, one of the city purchasing the equipment, and then the second option of contracting it out to a company. In the packet, there is a quote from two companies to do the survey and two companies to provide equipment. I will say, I think it's a good idea at some point that the city purchase equipment, but right now we need to get it done, and contracting it out would be the faster option. Of the two, American Leak Detection was the low quote at $10,000, and in talking with them, once they receive the PO, they can get us in the schedule, and they said right now it's about 1 to 2 weeks. Once they get here, they will require one of our operators in the field to assist them locating and water hydrants and valves, so they can put their equipment on the hydrants and valves and do the test. Hopefully within, I'll say 3 to 4 weeks, we will have known where our leaks are and hopefully get them repaired.
Very good. Thank you, Doug. Is there any questions?
So, don't know if I missed it. Is in that $10,000, are they guaranteeing that they're going to find the leak?
No, they cannot guarantee that they'll find the leak. They will extensively search all the piping, essentially every section of pipe between hydrants and valves, or valves and valves. We had a company come in and show us the equipment. It's very similar. I don't know if it's the same brand as what was shown. Going with it contracted out, we are not only buying the service or purchasing the service, it's their expertise using it. So if it's a good operator, he will find a lot of little leaks, provided that we have little leaks. But we're looking for a big leak, but should be able to find all of it. What they do is they'll mark it on the ground where they identify the leaks, flag it, and then in their written report identifies, closest address, how far from that address, north, south, up, down the street to where they found the leak. Plus, having an operator with him, he'll know, oh, we got a leak there. He should remember those, so.
While they're doing the detection, will they have a sense of the severity of the leak, or will that require digging down?
No, so the equipment that they use, the sensors that they put on the hydrants to initially locate leaks, it will be able to tell them severity of the leak. If it's small, large, holy cow, you need to fix this right now type leak. And then once they have that can locate it so far from each sensor, so it could say 70 feet from this side and 300 feet from this side. Then they will use a different sensor that they actually use for listening through the ground, and they can pinpoint within inches with that. Again, the operator's capabilities. He may be able to tell through listening to, a small leak versus a larger leak. I would put it as like turning on a tap, a faucet, you know what it sounds like running at a slow stream versus a higher stream. Water going through a hole in a pipe kind of whistles, makes a noise, so they will be able to differentiate between small and larger leaks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything else for Doug? Okay, could we get a motion to approve this purchase order, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, 11D2 is a request to authorize a change order to purchase order number 23-0688 for the purchase of additional water main replacement material from EJ. Doug, you taking this, or?
Yep. So, as this states, it is a change order to a purchase order. On January 4, council approved the initial purchase order for us to purchase pipe for the roundabout project replacing water main on Hubbard Street. We're purchasing the pipe because MDOT has identified the project as a shorter span project, even though it will cover several months during the summer. Water pipe for water mains is about 50 to 52 weeks out from time you order it to time you receive it. So this project, any main that has to be replaced, the contractor from the time it's bid to let to in process, he would not have time to get the piping in. So MDOT has requested that we purchase pipe. January 4 purchase pipe for on Hubbard Street. What this change order is requesting is purchase for pipe on Cedar Street or M89 between Trowbridge and Hubbard Street. And this comes about because with the roundabout going in place, the water main that's underneath Cedar Street now is shallow. So the roundabout portion, MDOT has to remove that portion of the water main and make it deeper. They will pay for that portion of the pipe. We're buying it ahead of time, we'll get reimbursed for it. But then they asked if we would want to replace the rest of that section of water main from where they stop at the roundabout to Trowbridge Street. I talked to Joel on this. That is one of the only sections of old 6-inch water main we have in that area. The rest on Cedar Street, Trowbridge, Hubbard are 8-inch or larger, newer water mains. So our feeling was, why have MDOT replace 100 feet and we still leave 300 feet of old when they're tearing up the street? Let's get it all done. So the request, the change order is for the part that MDOT will be replacing and for them to replace the rest of it at our request.
So, maybe I missed it, but is there a price, I just see the change order here, is there a price difference?
You have to look at the quote. So it is an addition of 40,000 to the original purchase order.
So this quote is addition to what
So it looks like
what we already
on,
approved, 200 and some
I'm gonna say
thousand,
line
didn't
2, change order PO amount from 26,613 to 66,821.
we? Wait a minute, where are you reading that? What is,
Doug, on page 50 of your packet, you'll see the
Oh,
change
okay.
order PO. And then in the box description, you'll see line 2, change PO amount from
Yep.
26,000 to
Okay.
66,000.
wow, so an additional 44,000. Okay.
To clarify on total cost, so this is just the cost of the pipe material.
Correct.
Will there also be an additional labor cost? for-
Yes,
okay.
yep, so as the project is bid out, it will be identified as sections that, so Hubbard Street is pretty much all the city responsibility, even though the MDOT contractor will do it. So that portion will be identified out in bidding that the contractor will have to put prices in for those items. the city will pay for that, the roadway, the water work, the sewer work. And then MDOT will also, will have to pay MDOT a fee for construction engineering also. This is just purchasing the pipe because of the long lead time.
Okay.
Any more questions for Doug? Okay, could we get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 11D3, request to authorize a purchase order for Dixon Engineering on engineering, or for engineering, administration of the painting of the Western Avenue Water Tower in the amount of $28,500. Doug?
So, it was identified in the last inspection, that this water tower should be painted, in 23, 24. We're looking at, bidding it out next spring, so it'll be painted next spring in the upcoming budget season. Wanted to just get this approved. This is actually coming out of the 24 budget. It is budgeted in there, but wanted to just get the ball rolling on this. This covers everything from putting the bid document together, getting Eagle permitting for it, putting the bid out for advertisement, receiving the bids, reviewing the bids, creating a recommendation letter for council on which bidder to go with, and then construction engineering, and it covers a 1-year inspection after the completion of the painting.
So this is not the painting itself?
No.
This is just the engineering?
No. Painting will be $175,000.
What kind of engineering do we need to paint a water tower?
There's, because all the specs, for the paint, how it has to be done, sandblasting or power tooling, they call it, grinding, then they come in and they'll have inspectors, I won't say on site continuously, but making sure that, all the places are cleaned properly and then painted and coated properly. Did that answer your question, Roger?
I think, so, is it actually doing the work of prepping it?
No,
Or
no,
it's
this is just engineering services. This is not contractual.
Wow.
I think we talked about this during budget planning. Is this a budgeted item at this point?
Yes, this one has been identified for several years to be painted in 23, 24.
So by agreeing to this, we won't see a further reduction in our fund balance like we've been worried about? there?
Unless bids come in differently than what we have put in the budget, no. We have put in the budget 190,000, which was the engineering estimate, when they, last year, and then adjusted, accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Now I see there'll be other updates at other water towers that Dixon will also be doing
Yeah,
per
well,
Eagle
it's-
requirements. Is that
The contractor will be doing, it'll all be in the bid document.
saying the bid document for those other
Yes,
improvements that
but
Eagle requires us to?
Eagle requires, certain things, updates at the other water towers. Dixon will put that in the bid spec, and then they'll be inspecting those other items as the contractor does them as well.
So, I'm sorry, Doug. This is not just to inspect Western Avenue Tower?
When they do, they'll have a little bit of work to do on North Tower and a little bit on Hooker Tower. When the contractor does that work, they'll also inspect that work also. It's primarily the work on the Western Tower.
It's update like some Eagle requirements that need certain changes done at the towers, that we have to make those changes, and they'll also do the engineering service for that and inspection to make sure we're compliant with Eagle.
Got it, Pete.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions for Doug? Could I get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the water tower engineering administration fee of $28,500.
Second.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, 11D4, request to approve a logo for source water protection. Doug?
Yes, so we have a source water committee, otherwise known as Wellhead Protection Committee. Let's say at some point we'll be changing the name over completely, and that's what Eagle has been doing. They used to do wellhead protection, but they've switched their program over to source water, so it not only includes well water, but any source water. What we want to do, as you'll see in the next item also, is we want to promote, education and safety of our source water. I'll just say it's unbelievable how many people think our water comes from the Kalamazoo River. My mom lives up, in a senior center here in town, and I go and visit her, and a lot of the ladies that are there that have called themselves, women of Allegan that have lived here all their lives, and they tell me we get the water from the Kalamazoo River. And I'm like, no, we do not. So, it's about education. Staff, the committee, we come up with a logo and what we'll call a mascot. As you'll see in the next agenda item, we have a hopeful goal for our mascot, so.
So okay. So is this the one you're wanting to go with then? Is
Yes.
that what
Yep.
you're,
So,
okay.
in the next item, we're asking for a approval of a purchase plan to buy materials, products to hand out. We'll have the logo on it, the source water protection, and a QR code that will take people to the city website. I'll say that's still under development. If it's the actual water page, if we create another page specifically for source water, but it'll be for information that they can, learn about our water system, our water supply, how to protect our water supply, and then there'll also be links to Eagle websites and other information.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
I will just add that I am the representative on the source water protection or wellhead protection committee right now. So we had a meeting last week and discussed the logos, and this is what the committee was recommending to council. Clearly, the mascot is more child-centric.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments?
No, because I usually get in trouble when I talk about art, so. I'll just leave it at that.
I will just say that one of them was staff developed and the other one was committee developed, so.
Is the 7,500 match from the city, is that budgeted as well?
Yes, so that's actually on the next one, but, yes.
Fair enough, yeah, yep.
Okay, could I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is 11D5, request to approve a purchase plan for educational and promotional items to promote source water protection education. Doug?
Yep, so, I'll answer Councilmember Redding's question right off the bat. So, last year we applied to Eagle for, $15,000. It is a 50% match. So Eagle will supply $7,500. The city matches with $7,500. It is, completely in this year's budget, the 15,000 with a $7,500 match, shown in revenue. Of that 15,000, 3,000 is the engineering. Fleece and Vandenbrink comes in, helps us, advises us. They set up the meetings. They work with Eagle. So right now, the committee, we, settled on product ideas. And so now, Fleece and Vanderbrink is actually contacting the Eagle source water person and running these by him also, just to make sure that that is approvable items. What they have seen in the past is pretty much all these items are approvable by Eagle as long as they have, something that promotes source water protection, source water education. So that's why with our logo, and a QR code, it should, meet Eagle requirements, that they'll, pay their portion of the 50%, match. I asked Joel how best to do this. He said, put a purchase plan together because, right now, I just went through the vendor. I usually get, our T-shirts through for, water utilities, but one of our committee members says, well, I get T-shirts from a company in Kalamazoo. I want to look around. He gave me the name. I'm going to contact them, see what products they have, the list, the, printouts for imprint. They will be very similar to that. I want to, I'll say, get what I think the committee feels is the best products, and then the best prices for the products. Couple items, the model description that shows the water cycle. Zach Quartz, our water plant manager, this year he did a couple of presentations to the middle school, to 6th and 7th grade. They asked if they had a model. We actually used to have one at the water plant. It was very old and it cracked and no longer holds water. So we would like to purchase another one. That's one of the items. And then the last item I'll mention is the mascot uniform that was approved at the last item. Our hope, our goal is to purchase a mascot uniform and that he may be walking in some of the parades or showing up at events. I will just say that I don't know if it will be me, because right now, all the places I found, the mascot matches are, what we have picked almost identically. The companies to purchase from allow us to change colors on, the cape, the costume, but their sizing is not quite American sizing, I will say. Right now, what I have shown fits my height, but not my weight. So, I've approached a couple of our other operators that are a little bit thinner, and one of them gave me no way, and the other one is a maybe, so, or I may have to go on a diet plan, I'm not sure. So. But that's our goal, so.
Great, thank you, Doug. Any questions?
I don't know, with the costume or the mascot, we might have to update our union job description to include that.
At overtime, they'll wear it.
Or we just get Parker in it. I think you're about the right size.
I'll be preoccupied during the parade. Councilmember Hans.
I hear lots of excuses not to wear this thing. All right. Can we get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. All right, next, 11F is city manager and city clerk. 11F1, request to approve the draft master plan for the city of Allegan and begin the 42-day public commenting period. Joel?
Yeah, so as mentioned in the report submitted to council, the planning commission has been spending the past couple of years working on a complete rewrite of the city of Allegan master plan. At their March meeting, they came to a point where they were ready to send it out for public comment. They made a motion at that meeting to approve the draft master plan and start the public comment period. Shortly after that meeting, we found out that it's city council, that's the body that has to authorize the public commenting period. So before you tonight is a recommendation that you approve the draft master plan and start that public commenting period. We envision on holding a open house where we invite the residents in to talk about this new master plan and direction for the city. During the development of the plan, as you can see, council relied on a lot of data that we dug up about the community, as well as a community survey that went out, just asking people about their wishes and wants for the community. They are recommending some significant changes to the future land use plan, introducing flexible housing or flexible residential planning designation, trying to not be so strict in what kind of homes can go in what places, while at the same time preserving, you know, some of the more traditional build-up neighborhoods we have. It's about a 75-page document. Any questions about the process?
Is there any questions on this? Anybody find any proofing mistakes? I mean, I know it seemed like every meeting there was one little thing that. Okay. Could we get a motion to approve the draft master plan and begin the 42-day public commenting period?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the draft master plan for the city of Allegan and begin the 42-day public comment period.
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
It feels very good to finally do that.
I'm sure. I've read it, I don't know, a few times, and I'm already, and I'm sure Delora has too, so. Next on the agenda is 11F2, request to approve the reappointment of 3 current Positively Allegan board members. Parker, you gonna do this, or Joel?
Yeah, happy to.
Thanks.
The Positively Allegan Board, as it is called in your memo, I made sure to inform everybody, there's, to the public, it is known as Downtown Allegan. It is still incorporated as Positively Allegan on the back end. It is a 9-member board. There are currently 2 vacancies. 3 seats are appointed by the DDA, 3 seats are appointed by the city council, and the remaining 3 seats are appointed by the Positively Allegan board themselves. So earlier this month, the DDA, like Mayor Galloway mentioned in her recap of that meeting, they reappointed 3 current members. There is a Positively Allegan meeting coming up on Wednesday, where they will be reappointing 1 member and hopefully appointing 1 new member. And then before you tonight is the reappointment request for 3 board members. That would be Rachel McKenzie, Coulter Purdom, and Trish Winter.
We just do this with one motion on all 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? We get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Rachel McKenzie, Coulter Purdom, and Trish Winter to the Positively Allegan Board.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 11F3, request to authorize a purchase order for ACP Entertainment for Bridgefest rides in the amount of $12,000. Parker?
I will take this one as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so last year, Bridgefest incorporated a Ferris wheel as part of the entertainment offerings for the day. This year, we would also like to add the carnival ride. Both of the images on the screen are actually what is offered by ACP Entertainment and what we will have, or what we have available to us for use on that day. Right now, Bridgefest this year is budgeted at a $26,000 event. We currently have 2 $5,000 sponsorships secured, one from Perigo and one from Milbacher and Sons. And we are, hopefully, the plan is to secure at least 2 more $1,000 sponsorships to help offset the cost of the event itself. It's also worth noting that we collect 10% of sales from all of our food vendors. We also collect 10% of sales from, or booth fees from our artists during the art market. And we also collect revenue off of tickets sold for these rides. Last year for the Ferris wheel, we collected $1,400 in ticket sales. So that helps offset that money in addition to the sponsorships that we collect as well.
Okay, thank you, Parker.
Is this the same Ferris wheel that we had last year?
So last year, we were supposed to get this Ferris wheel, and actually we were going to be the first event that was going to rent it. It was not ready. At the time, it was still being manufactured, I think, in Iowa. So we ended up getting a different wheel that ACP sourced from somebody else, so.
Gotcha.
Any questions? Any further questions? Can we get a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve, to authorize the purchase order for ACP Entertainment for Bridgefest in the amount of $12,000.
Second.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is staff and city manager and council comments. Michaela, do you have anything?
Yes, I received a phone call last week from the owner of 100 Leafs, which is the grow facility that is going in on Industrial Drive. They have put plants in their facility just this last week, I believe, and they have invited city council and some city staff to tour their facility. So we've set that date for May 5th, which is not this Friday, but next Friday at 10 a.m. So if you're interested, please let me know.
Thank you, Michaela. Doug, do you have anything else?
Nothing further tonight, Mayor. But if you would like to ask questions.
Just stay in your seat there, please, Doug.
Joel would like you to stay a little longer.
Parker, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. This Friday, we will be recognizing Arbor Day on the riverfront. It's at 10 a.m. I know Lori Courtney would love to see you if you're available. There will be, like it was mentioned in the public spaces recap, a 4-inch caliper marble maple being planted on the riverfront, in addition to the one that was the same type of tree that was planted there last year.
Thank you for that clarification.
Hey, Parker, would you be able to speak to April showers last week? How did that go? Did you hear if it was a good turnout for our?
Yeah, the April Showers shopping event took place on Friday from 5 to 8 last week. I did a walk around through the town and it was busy. There was very little parking on Hubbard Street. Locust Street was pretty full. From those that I talked to, it seemed to have been lesser attended than last year's event. But those that I did talk to were still happy with the turnout that they did see this year. Just recognizably lower, so.
Joel, do you have anything?
Just real quick, this could have been an agenda item, but I chose just to bring it up at the end. We need a little bit of clarification. At Thursday's meeting, council was okay with us being flexible with worker schedules at City Hall to balance, to create some work-life balance issues we want to address. However, council wants City Hall open 5 days a week. So we're going to keep council open 5 days a week from 8:30 to 4:30, just like we're doing now. But we're going to work with some schedules across the hallway to try to, reach some kind of work-life balance with those employees. That was the direction I got from council, correct? I understand, Dave, you weren't there, so this is all like new to Dave.
So 7:30 to 4:30,
We're open 8:30 to 4:30
or
right now.
8:30 to 4:30, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
City Hall will be open to the public.
Okay. So then how does that equal 4:10s? Or you aren't gonna do 4:10s?
There'll be some employees, well, the work we have, we don't need to have City Hall open for the work, for some of the work for us to get done.
Okay.
All right? I'm seeing a lot of shaking of heads, so, as we discussed on Thursday, once I have 4, or as I was told on Thursday, you have 4 people saying, no, you have to be open 5 days a week. Listen to us. I'm listening. Okay. Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, the first weekend in May, the Allegan Labyrinth Board is hosting a spring cleanup. So we did this last year. It's both days, Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. It's being sponsored by Modern Woodman. So it's just a volunteer thing. The board itself has funds to purchase mulch and things like that. Modern Woodman is supplying like coffee and donuts and some gloves and work stuff. So just something for the community and a chance to get the labyrinth cleaned up a little bit again.
Thank you, Dave. Delora?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that came out to the On Point Open House. I saw a few council members out there, and just make a mention that there is a Friends and Family Open House on Wednesday from 5 to 7. I consider you all friends and family, so you can come under my name and check it out. I think it's a fantastic facility.
This
So,
Wednesday?
Yeah, really excited for that to open.
5 to 7.
7.
Mike, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Peter?
Oh, that I got a letter, as of my business, got a letter about the Escanaba and the Moonlight coming with the Lions Club, I think, in October 20th and 21st to the Griswold. Looking for sponsorships. I know we haven't officially announced it from the city, but I did get an official letter from them. So I'm like, well, it's now public. So it'd be interesting to have a show come out that's a little bit bigger of a show.
Thank you. Badger?
Just quickly, I meant to share this at an earlier council meeting, and I kept forgetting. But on Easter Sunday, we had a bunch of family over, and my son got there and promptly locked his keys in his car. And so I called the non-emergency number, and within, I don't know, probably 15 minutes probably, Sergeant Dame, Chad, was out there and got his car open within, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And he's just a great guy and just quick response. And I was just thanking him profusely for being on the job on Easter Sunday when he should have been home with his family. But he was there unlocking my son's car, so that was great. So I will also send that along to Chief Gibson.
I'll tag on that. We do have an Oswald Police Department, so. Jay, as we said last Thursday, Jay had a rough day last Thursday, and I think it hit a lot of people in town, so. Anyway, again, I've been going to say this for a few meetings, and I kept forgetting. Staff, whoever is responsible for putting up the signs on M40 and 89, they look great, and I like the sign down on the corner of Water Street. That is something I would love to see permanently there, some type of sign. I think it's awesome. I like it there. And then, Parker, this is probably directed to you. When people do put out tents or canopies at Bridgefest, do we charge them to put them out? And do they reach out to you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the Sassy Olive organizes our artist market, and they've done so for the last few years. And then the community tent area, where that's made up of nonprofit entities, there is no fee for that. It's free for any nonprofit group to set up. We have a form, that's all they really need to fill out, and then they just have to be there for the specific time frame that we ask of them to be there. We just provide the space. They are to bring everything else, so.
Okay. Same for July 3rd Jubilee?
For July 3 Jubilee, we do not have any community
You
tent
don't do any
space.
tents,
No.
okay.
That event, just with such a large volume of people, we don't really have the real estate to give that space up. And then also we want to keep our streets open because we've got so much traffic coming into town.
Okay, so then that brings up another question. It was last year, we set up the city tent.
Mhm.
Bridgefest, was it?
Correct.
We planning on doing that again this year? Is that something we need to talk about, or?
Yeah, that would be wonderful if that's something that the council would like to do. It's same, it's that second Saturday in June. The time frame off the top of my head for those tents, I want to say is 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
And the forms were just sent out to local and area organizations last week.
Okay. I know we have time, but Michaela did awesome last year, sending a sign-up sheet around, so.
Yeah.
you know,
She and I can work
In
on that
her
again.
spare time, you guys, so I was just thinking about that when someone asked me about putting up a tent for Bridgefest, so.
Great, yeah, thank you
It's
for the reminder.
Actually, the county transportation department would like to did she reach out to you?
She did not. The health department,
Okay.
we've been in
Oh,
contact with
okay.
them, but I'll make sure
All
that the
right.
transportation
Well,
department as well.
Stacy Todd is the new director at the transportation department.
Wonderful.
In charge of promoting.
Great.
And so was the one that asked me, and I said I would ask, but I said, give Parker a call, so,
Perfect. We'll
Okay.
we'll share that.
great, good.
Can I ask one quick question of Parker?
Sure.
Farmer's market, are we having?
Oh my goodness, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, the farmer's market starts next week, first Thursday
Okay.
in May. Yeah, it's
All right.
it's already here. So yeah, every
Hope it warms
Thursday,
up so they get produce.
every Thursday, beginning next week through the second Thursday in October.
Okay,
Same location.
Yep, same location, same variety of vendors plus some, and then there'll also be a food truck there every Thursday for breakfast and lunch.
oh,
So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
good. Okay. Anything else from anyone? All right. 10:26. It is 8:07. I'd like to adjourn the council meeting, please. Thank you, everyone.